So let's get some insight on this from Lauren Fix. She is the car coach, and she knows all things cars. Lauren, thanks for being here. Yeah, so the number one thing here, the increase, right, in car costs, as we just discussed. If you're looking at a chart of these numbers, right, number one thing is fuel, no question about it. But there are a number of costs that have risen. Used cars are up. Electric cars are up. Can you break down kind of what the industry and this means for them right now as we look at some of these numbers here actually that are on the screen? Folks can see, again, the different areas that are up right now. It's kind of insane if we're talking about one industry getting impacted this hard.
Absolutely. You got rental cars, which we have a shortage of rental cars, so the price goes up, basic supply and demand. Used cars are up around 31%, but I've seen them as high as 50%, depending on what you're looking at. New cars are up at least 11%, but they're selling these vehicles more than sticker. Yesterday, I got an email from someone from a Jeep that was literally $50,000 on top of the price. That's absurd, and that's a problem. So what happens is dealers are making money by selling less cars and having larger profits. In addition to that, you've got equipment, repairs, and maintenance are up 10%, plus there's a shortage of parts, and you've got insurance up somewhere around 6%, and of course the cost to insure an electric vehicle has gone up 2 times over what it is for a gasoline comparative. So now look at that, plus the cost of the vehicle going up, and electricity costs more, like you've been saying, and you can see right out of the box, it's going to cost consumers a lot more money.
Okay, hold on. You got to back up for a second. You said that you saw someone who sold a Jeep $50,000 above the asking price. Is that what you said?
Right, exactly. So a friend of mine is in LA. He went to a Jeep dealership looking at buying a Jeep, and he found that the price had listed an ADM, additional dealer markup, $50,000. In other words, if you want it, we got it, but there's going to be a price to pay for it. Supply and demand is how they call it. I think that's highway robbery, but because they are franchises, they can choose to have no markup or choose to have a markup.
Wow. And if you have a Jeep, now's the time to maybe put it on the market. How do these increased costs, really impact the rising costs of the electric vehicle economy, right? Because with the electric vehicles, it seems like you might wind up with a chicken and the egg scenario, right? You might end up with more people say, hey, gas prices are so high, I'm going to go get an electric vehicle. Or you may have people saying, I'm not going to pay for an electric vehicle because my electricity costs are so high and the vehicle's more expensive. So what are you seeing happening right now?
Well, I see the same thing is happening. They've basically stagnated the electric vehicle market. You're looking between 2 and 4% sales. We'll get some final numbers here in the next couple of days. But you look at the numbers as a whole, there's only been 2% take rate. It's not just the ranges. It's the fact that there's a fee to purchase this electric vehicle. There are limitations, and you can't charge that fast. In the state of California, which has the most charging stations of any state in the country, they still have a problem with people getting to charging stations, which I experienced myself. And there's something someone's already parked there, so that leaves you without a way to charge. That means it's not like you go to get gasoline. It takes 7 minutes to fill up and you're on your way. That is not the case with electricity.
Yeah, and if you try to do it from your home, right? I think there's some places in California where they're cheating a little bit, and they change the price of electricity at nighttime, and so that people can charge their electric vehicles, right? Something to that effect. Let me shift gears with you for a second to semiconductors.
But we don't do that, we don't do that. Just like your phone, when each time you see an outlet, you plug in, and people do that with cars as well.
That's absolutely correct, right? If you've ever been to the airport, they're all hoarding the outlets. Let's talk about semiconductors.
Right, exactly.
Because right now, China's going through this process of trying to really get the semiconductor industry built up in their country. And one of the things they have done, the ruling Communist Party there has tasked Alibaba, the world's biggest e-commerce company. They have tasked them with actually designing its own processor chips. What do we know about this?
Well, it's going to take about 3 years from the time that you've been tasked with this. Even if you have unlimited cash, you still have to produce it. Right now, we've got a lot of factories coming online here, even in the U.S. and in other countries. But from the time you create it to its inception of actually delivering product to the market is a 3-year time window. It takes that long. But remember, China holds the keys because they have all the materials that are required in order to create the chips. So they have the material. They might be able to get it done quicker, but still, it's not going to be less than a year. So that's why other countries have been working on this since this started, which has been about 1.5 years now.
Yeah, and I think a lot of folks don't recognize the actual stakes here in a semiconductor race, if you will, between China and the U.S. It's pretty incredible. And on the U.S. side of it, Texas seems to be kind of the ground central or ground zero, excuse me, of where semiconductors are being developed here. About $50 billion exported specifically in that one industry of semiconductors in Texas. Do we expect to see Texas continue to be that hub, or are we going to see it spread out more across the country?
I'm going to see Texas right now because that's where Intel is based, but there's also going to see some coming out of California and other states because as quickly as they can retool their companies and shift to that production, or if they made the older style chips, shifting to the newer styles a little easier, I think you're going to see a lot more vertical production companies like Ford and GM and a lot of the other domestics are starting to build their own chips here so they can control the content. And I know a lot of manufacturers are doing that. Having talked to a lot of executives in the car industry, they tell me they are going to control it. They are never going to find themselves in this position ever again because it's hurting the car companies financially. We're off by about 4 million vehicles. That's somewhere around $400 billion in lost sales. That's based on the average profit of the average car. That's a lot of lost money, which means jobs, union jobs, non-union jobs, and all the supporting companies around that, whether it be marketing companies, social media companies, advertising, whatever it might be. Everybody's impacted, including all the sub-suppliers like tire companies and all the sub-suppliers of components. So this impacts our economy as a whole because remember, half of the Dow Jones, half of it is impacted by the auto industry. That's how important the auto industry is to our country, as it is also the same case in Germany.
Yeah, absolutely. Lauren Fix, the car coach, making me wish I owned a Jeep. Thanks so much.
Thanks.